John Yi. As you have just heard the negative in his case, I do not recall any points about conceding to our definitions, so I'd have to assume that in his concession to our definitions that the negative has stated that the U.S. military is prepared to defend itself against nuclear threats, but this is with inaccuracy. What are we enhancing defense for? And that implied, enhancing is to imply that there's something that could be better. In order to properly make that assessment, we first need to establish what our defense capabilities in relation to what the current threats are capable of. Where are we vulnerable? Subpoint 1, China and Russia have the ability to overcome U.S. missile defenses. James Dobbins, previous Assistant Secretary of State for European Affairs, Rand Corporation, July 23, 2015. U.S. defense strategy recognizes that Russia and China have the ability to overcome limited air and ballistic missile defenses that protect the U.S. homeland. Successive administrations have therefore chosen to accept the condition of vulnerability to Russian and Chinese retaliatory strikes with strategic nuclear weapons, while not publicly acknowledging vulnerability to Chinese nuclear attack on our homeland. I then would like to extend my partner's arguments that the U.S. military is not prepared to defend itself, rather that it should increase its defenses to sufficiently defend itself against high-end adversaries. Defense is especially important given how much damage the U.S. would suffer if attacked. Subpoint 2, China is capable of greater counter-value threat than the U.S. is. Mark Halperin, member of the Council on Foreign Relations, National Review, June 22, 2015. The U.S. is 81% urban and suburban, China 53%. To use per capita GDP as a measure of economic complexity, the U.S. is at $53,350, China is at $6,600. In other words, because China can inflict more damage per warhead on the U.S. than the U.S. can inflict upon China, the counter-value threat that China poses to the U.S. is amplified beyond any potential advantages or disadvantages in numbers of warheads. What would or could an American president do if such a scenario came to pass? Or if, what is more likely, an adversary during a confrontation or limited war reveal its hidden assets and resorted to brinksmanship? The answer is that the president would and could do nothing but surrender. Considering these points, I would like to submit again that it is inaccurate to conclude that the U.S. military is prepared to defend itself. But rather than focusing only on enhancing U.S. defense, homeland security, nuclear deterrence should also be considered to be enhanced. Deterrence is achieved by two main policies, which is damage limitation capability and nuclear destruction, or MAD for short. Subpoint B, China possesses the ability to defeat U.S. damage limitation capabilities. Charles Blazer, Director of Elliott School Institute for Security and Conflict Studies, International Security, June 1st, 2016. Our analysis indicates that, based on publicly available information, China has the ability to defeat the full range of U.S. damage limitation programs by pursuing countermeasures and adopting best operational practices. China has the ability to ensure that its mobile missiles survive, that it can launch surviving missiles, and that its surviving missiles will penetrate U.S. ballistic missile defense. The outcome of the competition between U.S. damage limitation capabilities and China's retaliatory capabilities will be determined by China. I would like to conclude my time by extending our arguments that it is currently improbable that the U.S. can simultaneously deter war and defend itself against adversaries, which I would like to remind the audience is observation 1 subpoint B, a definition that the negative conceded to. I now stand open for cross-examination.
Let me ask you, your partner was saying that there are acceptable limits from force marking, the political science and from the RAND Corporation. And she mentioned something about acceptable limits. What would you consider acceptable limits?
Well, acceptable limits would be in relation to damage limitation capabilities. And so in the sense that that damage limitation implies that damage is not necessarily avoidable, but that we would need to limit it to as few cities as possible. And so given the number of warheads that another state possesses, we would need to be able to.
Tracy, look at us. You don't care about him, you care about us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more question?
We have 1 more minute.
Oh, okay.
10 warheads per city.
And you say that the military defense against ICBMs is insufficient for large-scale attacks. Why?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
You say that the military defenses against ICBMs is insufficient against large-scale attacks. Why do you do that?
Because based off of the mentioned earlier, that's publicly available information, and both and also the defense strategy, they recognize and acknowledge that U.S. China and Russia have that ability to overcome our defenses.
You call the GMD system a thin layer of defense. What do you consider a thin layer?
Well, I wouldn't be able to define whether or not it's a thin layer.
Time.